Shalom. Do I have my microphone set up? I don't have my microphone set up. The reason you guys will likely not anytime soon see Shadow in the Valley of the Shadow of Death is so you see that bookcase? I have a different bookcase just a few feet away that's its twin. And Shadow's found her way on top of the other one, and she really likes it. So that's become kind of where she hangs out. That's where she's hanging out right now. And so, unless I get a camera on that, you're probably not going to see Shadow for a while. Yes, Shadow, we're talking about you. She can tell we're talking about her. Okay, so the reason I called this the last Just Chatting. So the Jewish New Year is coming up this weekend. And there is hopefully the plans for the Jerusalem conference are going to someday actually happen. And Mo hopefully has things well under control. And so I am likely going to kind of be splitting things off between Randos United and my channel, hopefully to get the admin seats back on my channel and my own StreamYard being my own StreamYard. And frankly, there's a bunch of people who use my StreamYard who aren't really on my channel. I'm looking at you, Mark, and Manuel, and well, let's see who else. And Father Eric and Gavin to some degree, and Mo and Sam and Teo. And so you guys are going to have to. Andrew, who let you on my channel?
I don't know, man. Some Jewish guy.
Some Jewish guy. And so I'm going to be kind of splitting off on my own more Jewish channel and the type of stuff we're doing on my channel. And Randos United and whatchamacallit, Joyful Mother of Children Foundation, or whatever it ends up getting called, is going to do its own thing. And hopefully the Jerusalem conference is going to be very successful, as is, considering they are planning something much, much, much smaller than I think is worth my time. I am probably not going to be going to the Jerusalem conference myself. But yeah. So those were the kind of the big announcements I was making. I've decided I am going to focus my energies on my channel and the type of stuff we're doing with what's its name, Fountain of Comfort, and frankly with work and school and everything else, I'm kind of probably going to focus on my own little corner of this little corner and withdraw from most of the rest of this little corner. You've been doing a lot of walking, Andrew.
Yeah, I always like walking. You can't walk in LA. So I guess I'm getting my walks in.
So when I first started becoming religious, I had a friend Yaakov who was not from Los Angeles that I would spend lots of time with. And on Shabbat, we would walk from UCLA to the Santa Monica Pier and back. And we used to spend a lot of time walking. And I would explain to him. So back then, walking in Los Angeles was far. This is before you were born. Far less common than it is now. Now people we didn't really have a transportation system back then. Like the buses and stuff. You have all these buses that actually work and go places. We didn't have that when I was your age. We had to walk uphill both ways. And there's a song, Nobody Walks in LA. And I told him about that song, which he had never heard of. And one time we were walking, and there was a car. It was near UCLA. There was a car full of college students who drove past, and they must have kind of just gotten a car or something, because they rolled down the window and they shouted, "Walking!" And that was just the funniest thing in the world, because it was like, ha ha, what kind of weirdo walks in LA?
Yeah. Still,
Rezi says, "L'chol makom she'ani holech, ani holech le'eretz Israel." Do you agree with that, Andrew?
something about Israel. I don't know. As a
Yes.
Zionist thing.
He said, "Everywhere I go to Israel." Chezi, did you see that video I posted from Or Sameach? I was floored. I was absolutely floored. I am almost desirous to play that video. What's that video? Reisman. He is one of the Rosh Yeshiva of, where is it? Let's see, Rosh Yeshiva. Rosh Yeshiva of Torah Vadas in Brooklyn. I mean, I guess there are people who are more influential than he is in Orthodox circles. Not sure many of them will ever appear speaking English in a YouTube video. He spends his summers in he spends at least a little bit of his summers, he has for the past 25 years, in Eretz Israel, and he was asked to give a lecture at Or Sameach, which is the yeshiva I went to, and before Rosh Hashanah, and he decided to speak about the Noahide community, which was like, wow. I did not expect any major halachic, any major. I guess you could compare him to something like a cardinal in, for comparison's sake, the Roman Catholic Church. And it was very interesting that he was talking about Noachites. I was actually quite shocked. And he mentioned that there was somebody in his community who whose parents were Noachides, and had um, he himself had converted to Judaism, and there was a wedding. And at the wedding, they had 3 sections. There was a Noahide section, a women's section, and a men's section for dinner. So, and frankly, my hope is one day we will have in synagogues 3 sections as well: a Noahide section, a women's section, and a men's section. But I was very surprised to hear about this. Trey!
How's it going, man?
I just heard you're gonna have a Noahide section.
You have to listen to this. You have to. Okay, now I have to play this.
It's pretty good.
I mean,
You're playing
of course, because it's like the colored people section. You know, you got to separate them from the rest of the higher souls.
So, just to set the stage here, Or Sameach is where I went to yeshiva, and it is one of the largest. It's one of the probably, I would say, 3 main yeshivas where people who did not grow up in the Orthodox community go to yeshiva when they decide to join the Orthodox Jewish community. This is where Rabbi Breitowitz teaches, and Rabbi Gottlieb, and who else would be a big name? Not sure anybody would know. But Rabbi Reisman is one of the yeshiva, Roshei Yeshiva at Torah Vadat Torah Vadas in Brooklyn, which is one of the more prominent yeshivas in the United States. And he was giving a speech to the main Beit Midrash, so the main study hall at Or Sameach, and this is what he decided to speak about.
I'd like to begin by thanking Sameach for hosting me. It's now about 25 summers. I figure a little over 2 weeks each summer, I'm already learned a year in Eretz Yisrael. Somewhat spread out, and it's really a schus to be here, the beautiful Beis Medrash, and I want to thank all of you who came. I'd like to share with you a machshava. It's based on a letter of the Brisker Rav. In the back of the Grizal Rambam, there are a few letters, not many, from the Brisker Rav that are printed. They're not machshava letters, they're halacha letters.
The Brisker Rav was the grandfather of Rabbi Soloveitchik, the Rav that we speak about, and he founded, basically, Torah Vadas, many of the yeshivas consider themselves followers of the Brisk method, and so apparently there's been a new letter published from the Brisker Rav, which he's talking about.
Shel Brisk. B'nai Noach and Lahavdil is Klal Yisrael. Humanity on this world is divided. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mavdil ben Yisrael la'amim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mavdil between Klal Yisrael.
Mavdil means differentiates.
Israel, Mekablei HaTorah, and the Umas Ha'olam Mo'anat. There's actually a third category, and that's a Ger Toshav. The Ger Toshav is somewhat of an in-between category.
Ger Toshav comes from the Bible. It's usually translated as sojourner.
The Gemara in Makis and Daf Tes talks about how exactly to count in ger toshav, kutihu, not kutihu, how to look at a ger toshav. What is a ger toshav? Ger toshav is somebody who's not a member of Klal Yisrael, not born into Klal Yisrael. He's not a ger tzedek. He didn't convert and become a member of Klal Yisrael. A ger toshav is someone who is mekabel sheva mitzvahs b'nei nayach. He accepts upon himself the achrayus of keeping the sheva mitzvahs b'nei nayach, and he does so in a formal way. He goes to Bezdin.
Bezdin is a rabbinic court.
And in Bezdin, he's mekabel on himself to keep the
Makabel means to accept.
7 mitzvahs, the mitzvahs b'nei nayach. And suddenly he's transformed into a ger toshav. What's a ger toshav? A ger toshav has many different halachas. The Torah says v'chzakta boi. There's a mitzvah to give chizuk, to help somebody to have parnasa.
Parnasa means material, basically an income. So if a ger toshav becomes poor, it is incumbent on the Jewish community to help a poor ger toshav in the same manner as we do other Jews. This is in addition to Darkei Shalom, which says that you also give charity to Gentiles. But a ger toshav is a member of the Jewish community and receives charity, and we have the same obligations towards him in regards to charity as any other member of the Jewish people.
It says ger v'soshav imach. It mentions a ger toshav there. A ger toshav, it's a mitzvah l'hachayosa. It's a mitzvah to help support him, to give him life, to save his life. And he's called a ger toshav because he has a makom to live in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is for Klal Yisrael. A ger toshav is somebody who has a schus to live, to be a toshav, to live among us, to live in Eretz Yisrael, even though he was never mekabel on himself to sheva mitzvahs b'nei nayach, more than the sheva mitzvahs b'nei nayach. He's mekabel the sheva mitzvahs in Bezdin, and he gets the status of a ger toshav. So the Brisker Rav deals with the problem that what kind of being mekabel sheva mitzvahs b'nei nayach? What does it mean? He's mekabel sheva mitzvahs. Any ben nayach, any human being in the world, is obligated to keep sheva mitzvahs b'nei nayach because HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded.
Just for reference, the Brisker Rav passed 100 years ago.
Nayach and his descendants, that they're obligated to keep sheva mitzvahs b'nei nayach. There's a chiyuv on b'nei nayach to keep the sheva mitzvahs. The Gemara says in the beginning of Avodah Zarah, Akum shalom Torah hariyu k'kayin gadol. A guy who learns Torah is like a kayin gadol. Tosfos says, what do you mean? A guy's not supposed to learn Torah? He says, no, to learn the Torah, the mitzvahs, so sheva mitzvahs b'nei nayach. Because every akum is also mitzvah and sheva mitzvahs b'nei nayach. So Brisker Rav is bothered by this kasha. He's not the first to ask it. But what does it mean, a ger toshav? He goes to Bezdin, mekabel sheva mitzvahs b'nei nayach. What's the Kabbalah exactly? He's mechuyev anyhow. Many of the Achrayim try to answer this kasha by finding a lumdisha nafkamina. How a ben nayach before he's mekabel has one set of rules, and after he's mekabel, there's some change in the halachis of a ben nayach to a ger toshav. Not the Brisker Rav. Brisker Rav is not frightened by the kasha. He doesn't look for nafkaminas. He says, Hainu.
And nafkamina is something that creates a difference between the two statuses in Jewish law.
A ben nayach who keeps sheva mitzvahs b'nei nayach is doing what he's obligated to do. There are b'nei nayach, there are many b'nei nayach who don't kill, don't steal, and they're being mekayim sheva mitzvahs b'nei nayach. The ger toshav is something else. A ger toshav is someone who goes to Beis Din and says, I'm makabel to do Yesheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach because the Rebbeinu Shalom commanded
Ribbon Shalom means the master of the world.
me. Not because my sense of right and wrong tells me you're not supposed to kill people, you're not supposed to steal from people, you're not supposed to be over avodah zarah. He says, my sense
Worship idolatry.
of right and wrong says so. That's a ben Noach. The Kabbalah beBeis Din, the fact that when he does it because he's doing it because the Rebbeinu Shalom is mitzvah him, the same kiyum mitzvah. Because he's doing it because the Rebbeinu Shalom is mitzvah him, that person becomes a ger toshav. The Brisker Rav tells us to see a ritva on Daf Tesam and Aleph in Makis, and he teaches that that's the kavanah of the ritva. Ritva says, his lashon is, before he's makabel in Beis Din, he does mitzvahs ke'enei mitzvah va'isa. He's mitzvah. But his kiyum, if you have somebody who's not makabel in Beis Din, ben Noach, and does mitzvahs, he does it with his own hachras hadas. He does it because his logic, his rationale, his sense of morality tells him to do it. It's his hachras hadas. He's not doing it as mitzvah va'isa. He's not doing it because he's commanded. He's doing it because it's the right thing to do. That's a ben Noach. The ger toshav is someone who does it k'mitzvah va'isa. He does it because Hashem commanded me. I'm a mitzvah va'isa. I'm commanded and I do it. That's a different behavior. It's a different avodah. It's a different sense of kiyum sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. It's interesting. In America, we have a group of Noahites. There are people who are makabel sheva mitzvahs. They live down south for the most part. There's a group in Atlanta, a group in Texas. We had a ger tzedek in our shul, whose parents are Noahites. And by his chasana, he got married in Passaic. In one of the wedding halls, there were 3 sections. There was a mechitza. On one side were the men, on the other side were the women. But the Noahites sat mixed. They have no chiyah to sit separate. So they had their own section. They're maminim in the Rebbeinu Shalom, not ready to be mekabel tayag mitzvahs, but they serve the Rebbeinu Shalom. They serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yesod is, and it's a whole different story. When you do something because it feels like the right thing to do, it feels like that's what you should do, you're doing the mitzvahs. You're doing the mitzvahs. The Rambam says mitzvah sichlius, you should do. You should feel it's the right thing to do. But if you do something because it's correct, so then one day you have a rationale, you rationalize that it's not important to do it, so it falls away. It falls away. If you do it because the Rebbeinu Shalom commanded you, it's not dependent on you, you're a mitzvah va'isa, so then it's difficult to rationalize a change. Chazon Ish writes that a ben Noach who keeps the Sheva mitzvahs without exception 100% of the time, and a ger toshav who's makabel, but he doesn't keep it 100% of the time. Machmas l'teyava, and he sometimes
Because of his desires,
does have Eris.
sometimes he sins.
He knows it's wrong, and sometimes he does it. People have a Yetzer Hara.
People have evil inclinations.
He says the ger toshav who doesn't keep it all the time is still a ger toshav. He belongs in Eretz Yisrael. The akum who does it because it's his rationale that tells him to do it, it's fine, it's good. But he's not a ger toshav. He's not on the level of the ger toshav. You see, it's not the performance that makes a person great. It's the sense of purpose, the sense of mission, the machshava, the idea that a person has when he's doing it. Was heißt der Ger Toshav? Someone who does it.
What is a Ger Toshav? He's speaking Yiddish.
Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mitzaveh.
Because the Holy One, blessed be He, commands it.
That's a Ger Toshav. Naturally, what's true about a Ger Toshav in his Sheva Mitzvahs is true alachas kama v'kama in its own madrega l'gabe Klal Yisrael. I want to share with you a Mishnah Berurah. It's a Mishnah Berurah, it's often a halacha, a one-line Mishnah Berurah. But listen. The Mechaber says in Hilchas Tefillin,
the Mechaber is the Shulchan Aruch, the Rabbi Joseph Caro, who wrote the Code of Jewish Law. And the Mishnah Berurah is the Chafetz Chaim's explanations of these rules as they apply in our times.
In Siman Lamed Ches Sif Ches, that a person who's writing or selling tefillin and mezuzahs is called the Isaac b'mitzvah. He's Isaac b'mitzvah, pater ben mitzvah. If somebody's selling or writing tefillin and mezuzahs,
somebody who is engaged in doing one mitzvah is not required to stop to go do a different mitzvah. It usually depends, but that's what we're talking about. Somebody who's occupied in, for example, writing mezuzah or phylacteries, and it becomes time for him to go pray. Should he stop writing the mezuzah in order to go pray or not? And that's what he's discussing.
mezuzahs, he's Isaac b'mitzvah, but what does it mean, pater ben mitzvah? Well, when it's efshur l'kayim shneim, meaning you could sell your mezuzahs and close the store and go daven mincha,
Pray the afternoon prayers.
and come back. So, of course, you're obligated to. But let's say, the example the Mishnah Berurah brings, you have someone who's leaving. He's a Yaitze b'Shiyara, he's leaving town. He needs a pair of tefillin. He's traveling somewhere, he's not going to have tefillin. And you're writing a pair of tefillin, or you're a sefer putting together a pair of tefillin for him. So it says in Shulchan Aruch, it comes in Kriya Shema, you don't have to say Kriya Shema, you don't have to say Shemay Esrei. If it comes mincha time, you don't have to daven mincha, you're Isaac b'mitzvah, pater ben mitzvah. If it's not efshur l'kayim shneim, if you're in a situation where the only way this man will have tefillin is if you do it now, so it's a halacha psuka, it's a clear halacha in Shulchan Aruch without machlokes, that the
There are no differing opinions. Everybody agrees.
sefer doesn't daven. The sefer puts together the tefillin so that the person should have tefillin. Isaac b'mitzvah, pater ben mitzvah. On that, the Mishnah Berurah brings, it depends. Depends. Why is this sefer in the tefillin business? Mishnah Berurah says if he's in the tefillin business, he needs parnasa. He needs a parnasa. He tried to open a restaurant, it flunked, it didn't make it. He tried to open a summah, it didn't make it. There was a Svarim store for sale. So he bought the Svarim store, he's selling tefillin. It says if his kavanah in selling tefillin is to support his family, it's not an avera. If his kavanah is to support his family, Mishnah Berurah says he's not a Isaac b'mitzvah. He's not a Isaac b'mitzvah. He has to go down to mincha. The other person won't have tefillin. He won't have tefillin. He has no p'tur. If his kavanah is that he's a sefer because he wants to be mansi, he wants to have a yad in making tefillin available to Yidden, he has a parnasa from it. But his kavanah is for the mitzvah Shabbai, so then he's a Isaac b'mitzvah, pater ben mitzvah. It's mavel arayin. You can go down the avenue, you can go down Malchi Yisrael, you can have two Svarim stores. And one Svarim store, the owner of the Svarim store in Shemayim, he's Isaac b'mitzvah a whole day, every day of the week, every week of the year. And the other person, the Rebbeinu Shalom looks at him, He has a business. He's making parnas of his family. It's a fine thing to do. But to your eye, they're doing exactly the same thing. One is doing for parnasa, and one is an Isaac b'mitzvah. It's a tremendous mechayiv, this Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says, it's a one-line Mishnah Berurah. He's quoting Magen Avraham. He says it as a command, as a davar pachit, that you can have two people, like the Ger Taishav and the Ben Nayat. They're both doing. But one is doing because the Rebbe Shalom commanded him. He's doing it out of mitzvah. And the other one's doing it because it's the right thing to do. Here you can have two people that are Isaac in the same mitzvah. And one, his mind is to do the Ratzon Hashem, to do the Tzivay Hashem.
To do the will of God, to do the commandments of God.
And the other, he wants to, it's the Ratzon Hashem to make parnasa for his family too. But he's not a Isaac the mitzvah in the pu'ula that he does and what he's doing. When you look at this, the kuda of difference, it's a tremendous mechayiv.
Mechayev means obligation. It's something that really puts an obligation upon you.
It means each of us, the things we do, the things that we do anyway, we can do them two ways. We can do them out a mitzvah, we can do them outside a mitzvah. The Beis Halevi in Parshas Va'era, I don't know if all the poskim agree to the Beis Halevi, but he says the following. Beis Halevi says, if you have a chayla sheyesh by sakana on Shabbos,
You have somebody who's sick, so sick that he might die.
somebody is a chayla and you're allowed to be mechal. Not you're allowed. It's a mitzvah to be mechal Shabbos.
It is a commandment that we should do things which desecrate the Sabbath in order to save his life.
Somebody a chayla sheyesh by sakana and he has to be, he needs surgery to save his life. Listen to what Beis Halevi says. He says, if a frum yid
If a religious Jew
goes and is mechal Shabbos and does surgery, so he gets schar for what he did.
he's rewarded in heaven for it.
He gets schar. What did he do? He was matzaleh. He was mechal Shabbos to save someone's life.
He desecrated the Sabbath in order to save someone's life.
It says if you have a friar yid,
You have somebody who's free, as in doesn't keep the commandments.
is there anyway? Is there anyway? And the person goes to the hospital, and a friar yid does surgery. He's not doing it because of pekuach nefashis.
Because of the commandment to save a life.
Beis Halevi, it's hard to understand. He says that he's going to get an einish for Chil Shabbos.
He is going to be punished for desecrating the Sabbath.
In Mechal Shabbos. The Beis Halevi says you can go to a frum doctor or a not frum doctor. You would think, go to the not frum. At least he's Mechal Shabbos, he should save someone's life. He says, no, you should go to the frum doctor because the other one, they're doing exactly the same thing. But one is kavana is the Bari Elam told me to Mechal Shabbos. Because
One has the intention that the creator of the world told me to desecrate the Sabbath
nefashis,
in order to save a human life.
and the other one is Mechal Shabbos the whole day. It's a parnasa.
He's just doing it to earn money.
It's just a mind-boggling difference in the shinoi and the ishtanas and the difference. He's someone who takes on himself to be an Oved Hashem and someone that doesn't take on himself
To be a servant of God.
to be an Oved Hashem. When a person is mekabel on himself that what he does is because it's Ratzon Hashem, even if he falls sometimes, even if he fails often, but he's an Oved Hashem he's doing.
He's a servant of God.
You say the Baal Shem Tov once said to his grandson that a goy veis nishvos is a yid. It's hard for the outside world to understand what it means to be a Jew. And his grandson answered him, a Yid weiß nicht, was ist a Yid. We don't appreciate it. During the COVID summer, which is the only summer I wasn't here, in the last 25 or maybe almost 30 years, we, meaning a group of us, opened a camp in New Hampshire, in a Republican state where they let people live. So we took nearly 500 people up a 9-hour drive. We rented a camp. People had never seen Orthodox Jews before. And we had a camp there. The camp was actually half on an island and half on a mainland. Why it was built that way, just for us. And there was a boat that ferried people back and forth all the time. The only non-Jews, and those the only original people running the camp that were really there, were the drivers, the people who drove this ferry back and forth, the cruiser back and forth from the mainland. It was Shivasa B'Tammuz. And
The 17th of Tammuz is a Jewish fast day.
I was on the cruise, I was going across, and this non-Jewish driver of the ferry says to me, he says, Rabbi, they're telling me today's a fast day. I said, yeah. Do you mean all the boys are fasting? I said, yeah. He says to me, come on, do you really believe that? You really believe it? All these 13, 14, 15-year-olds, you really believe they're not eating a whole day? You think they're not sneaking a drink in the bathroom? Go tell them that we don't drink in the bathroom anyway. He certainly won't understand. But he says, so he's telling it to me like it's the most ridiculous thing. There's nothing I could say to convince him. Nothing I could possibly do to convince him. So that afternoon, of course, a boy comes to me. He's not feeling well. Shouldn't he break his fast? Should he? He could hold out 2 hours. I'm thinking, a Yid weiß nicht, was ist a Yid. When a person does because he sees that he's an Eved Hashem, then a person has the kayach to do it, he has the energy to do it, he does it. It's takar kiyum of serving the Rebbeinu Shalom. There was an incident a number of years ago. A couple that lived in South America, Buenos Aires. He was from there, part of the Frum community there. And he got married and they were living there. His wife wanted to move to Eretz Yisrael. And they argued about it. He had his parnasa there, he had his business there, he had his family there. And she wanted to move and they agreed. They'll ask Rabbi Yashiv. They asked him the Shaila and she was sure. Everyone told her it's a fair Mishnah. Mishnah says that's how the Yishuv Eretz Yisrael comes into Masechtas Ksubis. The Mishnah says that if one wants to go to Eretz Yisrael, the other has to go along. They came to Rabbi Yashiv. Rabbi Yashiv asked her, why do you want to move to Eretz Yisrael? She said, look, I have no friends here. I have no friends in South America here. I have know so many people. There's so little kosher food, kosher restaurants, kosher... And Eretz Yisrael, you have everything available. So Rabbi Yashiv told him, you don't have to move. So she was shocked. She was shocked. So the way it's brought, I believe it's brought in Derech Sicha. But Yashiv said, what we're talking about today. Somebody wants to go to Eretz Yisrael because Bari Olam wants him to be in Eretz Yisrael, because Eretz Yisrael is the Tzenu HaKadosh, because of Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. He wants to be here because of what Eretz Yisrael has to offer in Ruchnius. So such a person is Taka. He could be Kafosa husband. But to come to Eretz Yisrael because the food is good. Come to Eretz Yisrael because you have friends here. So that is no kfiyah. You can't be kai for one another. It's all the same thing. It's all the same idea. It's all the Ger Toshav. It's all the question. You're doing the right thing. Why are you doing the right thing? What is your motivation? What is your purpose? What is your sense of what you're doing? it's a different Eved Hashem when a person does it because the Rebbeinu Shalom wants him to do it, and when a person does it because there are many other possible reasons. It's an avodah. We don't train ketanim, chinuch. We train them to do.
We don't train little children by teaching them. We tell them what to do.
We train them to do because they get candy, and to do because they shouldn't get punished. And that's all mechanech ketanim. You can't start teaching a katan to have the sense of higher purpose. But at some point, we have to stop being ketanim. We have to go beyond that and do because we do, because we see it as a sense of the chiyuv of what the Bayer Elohim is mitzvah, to see ourselves as Avdei Hashem, being busy with Avodas Hashem all of the time. It's a sense that every year El and the Seres Yemei Tshuva have to give us. The idea of being Mekabel Machusai is the same.
The Elul is before the 10 days, usually called Days of Awe, or the 10 Days of Repentance, which starts on Rosh Hashanah, which is this Friday, and goes for 10 days until the Day of Atonement. Elul is the month before, when we prepare for it, to accept upon ourselves the yoke of heavenly kingdom.
Sense of what we do anyway. We do anyway. It's not dafka because we're makabel to do more. Of course we're makabel to do more. But
It's not necessarily that you accept upon yourself to do more than you were doing before. Of course you should, but it's not just that. It's that you should recognize the reason why you do things.
it's lav dafka. It's the sense, the constant sense. In the United States, El doesn't start until Erev Rosh Hashanah. Pretty much. Now everyone's still busy up in the mountains, going back and forth, and the United
Are we
States,
watching this
all
till
of
the end?
You have something better to do?
We could discuss.
What would you like to discuss? And he leaves us. The minute I say, what would you like to discuss? He leaves. Mavatal Torah, I tell you. Mavatal Torah.
Orthodox Jews have their summer outfits, their polo shirts, and their grills, and all their other silliness. And it's chaval. The whole Elul is lost. And here,
Hello.
We were going to discuss it, but then you left.
I hear you. For some reason, it is not connecting to my headphones, though.
We hear you. You can't hear us?
No, I hear you. It's just I'm not hearing it through my headphone for some odd reason. Hello?
We hear you.
All right. First off, good morning, Trey. Why does it look like he's in a coma or something? Is he all right? Okay. And,
It's almost 10 o'clock at night. He spent the
I don't
entire
know.
weekend surfing and going out with girls and God knows what else.
I don't know. That man was like counting sheep. Doesn't even do it as good as him. My God.
Are you kidding? The Lumdus! The Lumdus! Oh, you're such a guy.
This is dovetailing with the video that Rabbi Malot did with Bill.
Yeah.
And so I'm obviously very happy that this is. I was also happy to hear how distraught Rabbi Malot was about this, where like he realizes like he doesn't have answers for this, but he wants there to be something. I'm also I like that these Noahites were invited to this wedding. I don't know why we needed to have like a third section. I thought that was like a
Because they're allowed to sit mixed. I'm showing you.
Oh, okay. So I guess that's fair. That if they're going to see mixed, then they need to have their own section. Okay. I thought they're like, You could just let the men sit with the men and the women sit with the women. It's all good.
You
but
could, but they wanted to sit mixed, and they're allowed to sit mixed if they like.
that is some
So second day of Yom Tov, Rosh Hashanah applies even in Eretz Yisrael. So everybody keeps 2 days of Yom Tov for Rosh Hashanah. So yes,
for Rosh
more
Hashanah,
likely,
yes.
yeah.
The rest is crazy. Either way, with regards to what he was saying, so he very much holds, according to Maimonides, who it's very crucial for Maimonides that Noahides accept the 7 laws specifically because it was given, or it needs to be connected to Moses. It needs to be part of Moses' Torah. And the reason it's so important for the Maimonides, while others don't require that recognition, is because what the rabbi was saying over here is the intentionality specifically, and I mentioned over here relates to like the incident in Antioch, which is the people that are sort of out of control. Paul comes and says like, "What's up? What are you guys doing?" They respond to him like, "What are you talking about? Like, we don't have to keep the commandments anymore." And he tells them, he's like, "That's true, but not everything is," what's the word he uses? Everything's allowed, but not everything is proper, and not everything is worthy, basically. And the idea is that removing the commandments from yourself and just doing it because it's a nice thing to do is not what we want. We want you to do it, like Jacob was saying, to feel the yoke of God upon you. That is why you're doing it. It also happens to be moral and just and good. But you see that through the commandments and through the requirement that God is expecting you to orient yourself in his ways. So this
is my exact point with when what's his name, Brian, came on the stream, right?
Right.
Their whole thing. Their whole thing. I mean, I knew once he was exposed, he would run away, and he did. But their whole thing is, oh, sure, you could keep the commandments just as long as you don't do it because God wants you to. Just as long as. And that's the whole point. This is how you know he belongs to Satan, heart and soul. Like,
yeah, but there's a difference though. Like a ramification, an important ramification would be, for example, the learning of study of Torah. While some people look at it like, oh, they, like the rabbi mentioned over here, they could be studying the Torah that has to do specifically with Noahides. However, a Noahide that is interested in accepting all the 7 laws under the yoke of Moses is then permitted to really study all the laws and in-depth study of the Torah as well. So obviously, and this is also where one has to be specific also with regards to, and I mentioned this to you in the past, Jacob, like can a Noahide, can he keep Shabbat or can he put on phylacteries? And the answer is like, well, specifically more about Shabbat is like he can if he's in the right mindset, not just because like he's a.
I'm not so sure. So that's what Bill asked, and when Rabbi Peretz hopefully does come on the channel, I will certainly ask what his views on that are. And yes,
what did Bill ask?
Bill asked why Isaiah. So in Isaiah it says to the Srisim, Shabtotai Tishmeru, right? Isaiah 56, 1-8.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and that's actually where it says Yad Vashem, right? And he says, so why Shabtotai Tishmeru doesn't apply to Bnei Noach, and I guess what Rabbi Shirky believes is that it does. But I have to say, for thousands of years, Jews have been teaching that even someone in the process of conversion should be Taka Mechalel Shabbos, and I don't see how you get away from that.
The way he accepts this is that first of all, Zachtan Sofer, right? So he looks at Maimonides, the Law of Kings, and he says Maimonides is differentiating between an idol worshiper of El Kochavim to a Noahide, okay, and specifically the Noahide that accepts no longer to is a strict Noahide that's not going to be dealing with any idol worship anymore, basically, or give up all his Gentile ways. He himself could keep Shabbos. He could bring sacrifices. He could teach Torah. We accept a charity from him. So this is how he sees it. By the way, even in Sanhedrin, there's a Ger Toshav that could keep Shabbos. And this is like a Rambam, like with regards to Shemitah as well. So obviously, this is not. Take a step back. You could see by Rabbi Marlot, and you could see by this rabbi right now that you were surprised by. This just isn't a topic that we've, and by we I mean the collective Jewish community.
By the way, you realize who this rabbi is?
I realize who the rabbi is. Yeah, and I know that I feel very bad that on COVID he missed his 24th year of coming there.
Apparently, he's a big Zionist of sorts. Hashem Yiracham Aleinu.
I wonder why. What's the name?
I'm joking about the Zionists. Obviously, he's a kosher Jew. He's not a Zionist. Go ahead, Fez.
I don't know if Jonathan has this. The Brit Olam practical application for Noahides.
Brit Shalom.
Brit Shalom. Sorry, he has a Brit Olam as the organization. But here he has. There's a difference of opinion among the sages as to what is the appropriate extent to which Noahide should learn Torah. There are those who restrict study to the parts of the Torah with universal application, which touch on the foundations of faith, morality, and the law that are meant especially for Noahides. And there are those who distinguish between a non-Jew who did not take upon himself the 7 Noahide laws, who would be limited as stated in his study, and a proper Noahide who was permitted to learn the entire Torah. The second opinion is the prevalent one, is a prevailing one. And where does he quote this? Chatam Sofer Chidushei Chulin. Yeah.
My big thing has been generally what we talk about in this on our channel anyway, are either related to Ahavat Hashem and Yirat Hashem, which applies to Gentiles as well as it does the love of God and the fear of God, which refers to Gentiles as well as to Jews, and things that have to do with what you call it. So yeah.
Well, specific with Jonathan, I can discuss it with him a little. Maybe we'll talk tonight after Pirkei Avot. But he was asking like questions with regards to, what if my wife wants to go to church, and I'm not.
That's one of the things I want to talk to. I would love if Rabbi Peretz feels comfortable publicly speaking about it. The fact is, I assume that if he were to privately ask a posek, I can't imagine a posek would tell him not to go to church.
Correct.
The question becomes whether any poskim are willing to publicly discuss this stuff, and many of them are very, very hesitant to make public pronouncements. Yes, go to church.
So Rabbi Shirky would tell you to go to church, not to like destroy the relationship. And again, it varies based on, who's your partner, how much wiggle room do you have, what kind of church you're going to.
Okay, Hazi, you've heard me ranting about this left and right, that rabbis are very, very unwilling to speak out when people are being megala panim l'Torah shelo halacha to Gentiles because of the various things we say, like to Jewish kids, never walk into a church. It's avodah zarah, right? So of course, you could, if you were to say to your kid, no, that's avodah zarah, like that's not a huge problem because you don't want your kid, chas v'shalom, to fall into Trinity worship. But if somebody is married to a Trinitarian, that's a completely different calculation you have to make.
So Rav Shirky says over here, being present at or passively participating in idol worship ceremonies is not forbidden to Noahites. Right now,
Okay, and that's idol worship. Let's.
I'm with you. So I mean, he quotes over here. I mean, Rav Ovadia Yosef, Yabia Omer, and he quotes the Bavli over here. But the idea is, right? So then you would then go to someone like Jonathan and be like, okay, but like we're not necessarily in this idol worship land. And then you have to layer on top of that the Shalom Bayit, as in the peace in the home factor of like how important that is as well. There's a separate question, which is, Jonathan, emotionally and like psychologically, can you stomach this? And that's a separate question. But there's like, for your community and for your kids at this point right now, does it still make sense to go?
But Chazi, it's beyond that. Also, the question is, can you psychologically handle not doing this, having no community? Because that's also a cheshbon you have to make.
I for sure, and I think Trey was talking about that, and he was mentioning to him like, you just need to go to church regardless, because like either way you have nothing. And Rabbi Mullet is mentioning that as well. It's like, you could drive like for 3 hours and not find another Noahide.
Trey, why are you so excited?
Because I was right. I was right. It's something in my gut. I was like, Jonathan needs to go to church. And I'm like, I am right against a man that is twice my age. I'll take it.
You're, just to be fair, Trey, you are right in those specific circumstances. As in, ideally, there should be a community established for him.
Yeah, and there is a Chabad, and I'm not sure that the Chabad in Michigan wouldn't be more welcoming than Chabads that actually have a large Jewish population to service. Yes, Matthew, you wanted to say something.
I was considering, do you believe the Shekinah glory, when bowing down to that, was idolatry or no?
Well, I don't know what exactly you're talking about, but bowing to King David while in reverence to God was not idolatry.
Okay. Just with regards to the Shekhinah specifically, we it's all one, we do recognize the Shekhinah as like there's a difference between, let's say, the Shekhinah and or let's say the heavenly voice. However, with regards to, let's say, Muslims, there's no sort of concept of the Shekhinah as far as they're concerned. And like a ramification of this would be, right? I mentioned this in the past, but if I see a Muslim praying, I need to refrain. I can't stand within a certain distance of him, and because I believe in our religion, like he's in the middle of praying right now, and the Shekhinah is there as well. He's in the middle of prayer. As far as an Arab would concern, there's no Shekhinah over there, so you should not walk there for other reasons, as in don't disturb my prayer for other reasons. But it's not because you're disrupting some sort of like Shekhinah Shekhinah presence. So there is a difference between how Muslims and Jews also delineate that. But
I'm considering the similarity between Trinitarian thinking and the Shekinah. Yeah.
Look, when it comes down to it, I have been very vocal in my belief that the monarchical trinity is not only permissible b'diavad, meaning and a secondarily status to Gentiles, but that it may lechatchila, it may be a situation in which a Gentile should, in fact, I believe, go to a church with a monarchical trinity, and that's a preferable situation to basically any other choice I know that Gentiles have today. And I have said this to many people. Obviously, I am not a posek, but from what I understand, and this is one of the discussions I intend to have with Rabbi Peretz when he's in Los Angeles is that, yeah, actually the monarchical trinity is something that is completely permissible to Gentiles.
Because most Gentiles are confused about the Trinity 90% of the time, anyways.
Did you? I mean, I was just re-listening to my own disclaimer on my channel for various reasons. Partially because I'm going to be playing it for Rabbi Peretz, but one of the things that I talk about is obviously that Trinity is a huge problem because according to any Christian idea you have, the vast majority of Christians are idolaters because of their misunderstanding of the Trinity. According to Christians.
Trey,
Like-
you're shaking your head. I would just say, it's part of this brave space. Ultimately, and this is also, I think, where the rub is, would be like the difference between, let's say, a rabbi mentioned in the past, Rabbi Nagan, and let's say Rabbi Shirky, because Rabbi Shirky ultimately believes that somewhere down the line, everyone gets in line, become Noahites, accepted all through Moses, basically. And there's none of this like also idol worship situation going on. However, Rabbi Nagan, which Jacob is discussing over here as well, also believes that there is a place for Christianity and there's a place for Islam. However, it only happens once those tweaks are made into the operating system, as in clarifications of the Trinity and obviously this is controversial and in any way.
And I have to say, I believe that this is the view of Maimonides and of Rabbi Steinsaltz.
Well, no, because Maimonides still requires you to accept these things from Moses, right? So
Right,
Maimonides is not leaving.
But Fezi, the question becomes: do Christians, as opposed to let's say Hindus, accept the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach because of Moses, because they believe in Christianity, which traces itself to Moses? And I would say that Christianity and Islam, in that sense, are better than Hinduism.
It's funny because on Shabbat, I was sitting studying with my grandfather, as I do, and this famous Maimonides came up, and I went to his library to take it out, but it was like the censored version that he had when he was traveling. So I was like, I'm like, Grandpa, you're in for a treat. But so obviously
he still has a censored version of. I guess he still has his Rambam from the 30s. Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah. But I'm with you.
Honestly, the Christians censoring that was one of the biggest mistakes they ever made.
What I think it's hard, definitely for Orthodox Jews to think about a concept of how do I, and I'm using you as an example, Trey, how do I make sure that the terminology, like even post proper orientation, right, at the temple, we're all there together. How do I make sure that concepts such as the Eucharist or Mary, how do you still maintain those shells and that jargon, but orient it properly, let's say, towards, a one God vision?
So
and I'm not the authority.
So this is where I kind of almost hope. I mean, we'll see when Rabbi Peretz is here what kind of time he has, but I kind of would like to have Rabbi Peretz talk to Father Stephen, because Father Stephen, in his knowing of Hebrew, like he describes the Eucharist as zecher of a korban, the same way that on Shabbos we say that what we eat is a korban, and that a zecher to a korban that Jesus made in a similar way as the Asara Harugei Malchus, right? And so when you chain that together in Hebrew language, I don't know that I personally think if Father Stephen were to go before an actually constituted rabbinic court, I don't see what good reason they may have for denying him the status of a Ger Toshav.
I mean, unless he believes that Christianity is idol worship. So then that's a problem.
Who believes?
Any rabbi, right? Like this, like there's an issue. You should refrain.
You have to ask if. I mean, you have to know and ask if. I mean, you can't hold. Oh, Christianity is the entirety. There's 2 billion Christians. You have to see if that Christian has idolatrous intentions.
That is part of the battle, though, like you just mentioned, which is for many, I think for most of our history, Christianity is just a monolith. It's just like Christianity. And there and in Jewish circles, we don't pay enough attention to the different versions and different manifestations of those Christian groups.
Is it the Meiri who came up with the idea of Shituf? Who was the Rishon who started talking about Shituf?
The Meiri promulgates that. He also talks about how like there's the double hello, the shalom kfula, how you have to go out of your way to say hi, and there's a loving relationship with your Christian.
Okay, that's beside the point. The question is like when you differentiate Shituf with the Trinity. Honestly, I mean, when I heard of the monarchical Trinity, that was like before the monarchical Trinity. I just thought the Meiri was smoking something. Rahman
The Meiri does not require like a seamless start to finish point monotheistic religion. Rather, he is okay with a religion that eventually leads to recognizing in one God, basically down the line. But there could be hints to it. It doesn't have to be our version. And obviously, he's a lot more liberal with his understanding. Obviously, people disagree with him. I also wanted to point out one specific thing we spoke about in the past. I don't know who was mentioning this, but I was looking into this with regards to painting a church.
Yeah, I keep on. That's the example I give up. Often there was a discussion group with Noachites, and there was a man who had taken a 2-year contract to paint icons on an Eastern Orthodox church, and he had finished a year of his contract already, and he couldn't afford to pay back the contract anyway, but he had become a Noahide, and he was wondering if he could continue to paint the rest of the church. And frankly, I can't see a rabbi telling a Jew that he shouldn't finish painting the church, much less a Noahide.
So they tell the Noahide over here, Jews are forbidden from making a sculpture in a form of a complete human being, even if it's only for decoration. Then there's a footnote saying that the Khatam Sofer said this is not a problem for Noahides. However, there is no prohibition to be in place where decorations, sculptures are on display, and it's even permissible to appreciate such a sculpture as a work of art as well.
You have somebody behind you. I am going to take Chazi off while he's... I took you off, Chazi. While he's busy with stuff.
Andrew was watching YouTube while on YouTube. At least make it like not obvious. Like, bro, like you gotta.
I already watched the video and whatnot. Yeah, I don't know, all this stuff of are you a Noahide or Ger Toshav? If you connect it all to God of Abraham and whatnot, I don't know, connects nicely with Paul. So let's go.
What is it with communion? When it comes to Presbyterian Reformed, we just kind of see it as spiritual. We don't really see it as a full-blown transubstantiation or anything. So it's I find that it gets a little murky with Lutheranism and especially Catholicism. Catholicism does believe in a kind of a worshiping of bread and wine. So
Yeah, with Eucharistic adoration as well.
Yeah, Eucharistic adoration, I think, is a honestly, for me, I'm not so hugely bothered by the various things of the Eucharist for Gentiles. I just don't see how the egalitarian Trinity is monotheistic.
Well, it's a bit confusing to most Protestants too. So, I mean, you run into so many Protestants who say, "Well, it's so simple," and then I hear them explain it, and I'm like, "Yeah, that was not simple."
Not only is it not simple, I mean, generally, almost everybody who tries to describe the Trinity does so in one of the ways that is explicit modalism. Like it. I don't think there's any Christian who claims that a majority of Christians could describe the Trinity in a way that wasn't explicitly, according to Christianity, idolatrous. And so, like, I'm sorry, like, the Trinity is just a stumbling block. I see no reason to teach it, but, like, what am I going to do? Like,
well, it's all Luther's fault, you know?
I think it's all Nicaea's fault and Constantine's fault, but that's me.
Well,
At the very least,
doesn't seem to.
At the very least, you
shy away from accepting worship.
I have not seen any problems with anything that I genuinely believe Jesus actually said, which includes basically everything in the Synoptics. I mean, what's his name? Sam Titterman from the Transfigured channel. Like, he makes. Look, I have found one place in the entire Christian Bible that talks about the Trinity. Jesus says, "Before the rooster crows, you will betray me 3 times."
What about the Johannine comment, though? You know, it's a pretty good.
Yeah,
good
if the
defense.
Johannine comma was in any of the Christian Bibles whatsoever, you might be able to make an argument that it's actually it's that there is something Trinitarian in the entirety of the Christian Bible. But since the Johannine comma is not in any non-crazy person's Bible, like, there are some Baptists somewhere which are KJV only, but like, how many people still have the Johannine comma in their Bible?
The King James was the original version, don't you know? It's original language.
Max, how you doing, Max?
Laila Tov, Max.
Laila Tov. And I guess we'll say hi to Taya too.
Jacob, whatever. When you speak to this rabbi, what are you preparing?
I mean, I'm gonna maybe show him a couple of videos from my channel, and then I'm gonna ask him. I'll see what he has to say. I mean, he was my halacha rebbe 25 years ago when I was in Or Sameach.
Do you know who the Maharatz Chayot is?
I have no idea who the Maharatz Chayot is. I have no intention of actually preparing anything to show him in terms of trying to convince him one way or the other, because he's the posek and I'm not I think that would be chutzpahdik of me.
No, I didn't mean that you're gonna like be like, guess what? I'm just that was now a separate conversation, which is regards to Maharat Chayot. He's from the 1800s. Was a heavy hitter, and he is quoted saying that he identifies Christians as a
Look, if you want to make a PDF, if you want to whatever for Rabbi Peretz, I can show him whatever you want to show Rabbi Peretz. Honestly, he lives in Jerusalem. I don't know why you can't go talk to him yourself. I get to see him once every couple of years when he comes to Los Angeles. You could go see him any day you wanted. He doesn't do internet. He's Haredi.
Right. I see. I understand.
Yes, he's Haredi. Surprise, surprise.
Just gonna make up. It's also like.
What'd you say, Trey?
You don't like Haredis, do you?
I don't know if I don't like Haredim. First of all, I love all Jews, and I mean I love all people. And as far as Haredim go, I have like the community itself. The individuals are wonderful. Some of the communities themselves, I have a lot of political and theological disagreements with. There's a lot to admire about them. I don't like that they like. It sucks for me that they got to take that name because I am also God fearing or God revering. So yeah. But I guess yes. But I have a very big concern about that community, both for itself and for the future of Israel and for the future of Jewish people. But it's also not fair to lump them all into like one group. There's differences whether they're in Israel or in the States, or if they're a part of a Hasidic group or not.
He's Sephardi. You like Sephardi Haredim, mostly.
Excuse me for a moment.
You're excused.
I want to know if Hezi would say those same words when he's high as a kite. I guess I'll have to to see.
Hezi's always high as a kite.
Gotta get him really high.
When you go to Jerusalem, you and Chezi can get high with everybody else.
High with God.
Yeah, exactly.
Kitty cat bombing. It's cute.
Shadow, nobody can see you. You're hiding behind my name thing.
Andrew, you gonna go to Jerusalem?
I'm broke, man. I'm broke.
I'm broke. If you had the money, would you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would. Yeah.
If I had the money, I would.
I think a lot of people would. It's pretty interesting.
Shadow, would you go to Jerusalem if you had the money? She doesn't seem very excited about Jerusalem.
I hear dogs in the background from somewhere.
Yeah, that's me.
That's Andrew.
Yeah.
Truer words.
No, he has to study. That's what he has to do. That's all he's gonna do the rest of his life. Is just study and do homework.
Yes, sir.
Kyle, what was your summer job? What did you do over the summer? I read 30 different Jewish texts, and you have no idea the importance of each one of them. That's what Clown did over the summer. Okay, just stayed in his room, read some random Jewish interpretation that no one even cares about, and has no application in his daily life. That's what
Oh
Clown
dear.
did. Okay. I like how he didn't say, I'm not in school and I didn't do those things. So that confirms that he did just stay in his room this whole summer and read
Jewish
yeah,
texts.
yeah, read Jewish texts.
Well, what can I say?
What can I say? He's gonna get married to a book. I do it because I love him, honestly.
Do you really?
I honestly do. I don't roast people I don't love.
Andrew, it'd be very nice if you were in Israel. We could talk, hang out. I could talk to you about how, even though I sound like a heretic on Jacob's channel, I love God. I love Hashem very, very much. Jacob was ripping me and giving me, it's called Musar in English, in Hebrew. How do you say Musar in English?
Usually it gets translated as ethics, but I don't think that's a good way of putting it.
Shade.
Yeah.
No, Musar is more rebuke.
Right. I was being rebuked that I need to be more careful with my words, and I'm too loosey-goosey with my concepts. More specifically, sort of, well, either way. I understand that I say controversial things sometimes, and I also understand that it's also very sort of easy for me to speak this openly over here because I'm in sort of like an unshackled form, right? I'm not speaking to a class of Orthodox 18-year-olds right now. Having said that, sometimes I could sound off almost like I guess like that I don't have a relationship with the agentic God. And while my view differs from many, I am an everyday constant relationship with the agentic God, and I see him in all things and in all places.
A real brisker.
I mean, there's definitely a part of that, which is also true. I mean, there's not like a man in the sky, but there's definitely a presence and a relationship that I have with him. So just to put it out there.
As he wants everyone to know that he actually does believe in God.
I guess I had to clarify it.
Despite the fact that he's constantly getting high.
First of all, I'm not constantly getting high. Okay?
Just some of the times.
Number
Just-
one.
Every single day, just
No,
once a week.
It's definitely more than once a week, but it's but I don't like using the terminology like getting high. It's
Andrew like
Closer to God.
completely lost it.
No.
Completely lost it.
For example, Jacob was mentioning that now we're on these we're in these in the high holiday season, and there's a difference between the Ashkenazi Jews and the Sephardic Jews about when we start saying these prayers. How would you translate?
Selichot, penitential prayers.
Okay, so the Sephardim do it for the whole month of Elul, and the Ashkenazi do it the following the week coming up to the new year. So, for example, that in my community, it's like it's a dark. It's in the synagogue. It's all dark. There's candle lit, and you sit down. There's a class first that talks about how you all should be doing better, and blah blah blah. And then you actually go into the actual prayer, which goes on for another probably 45 minutes to an hour. So, was I talking like so many addicts I knew in high school? We need addicts. They knew in high school.
Chazi's definitely a stoner.
I mean, like, how do you decide like a stoner? Is that like Is that like someone that's part of the community, pays his taxes, has 3 kids, takes them to school, has a business that's successful, and good relationship with his siblings, takes out his nephews.
So
to movies.
Trey was telling us how when he was at Burning Man, there were all these successful people he saw who were totally effed up on all kinds of drugs, like cocktails you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, but you guys wouldn't be able to differentiate. You don't know if I'm high or not.
I could know. Like
I would be very, very surprised if your kids can't tell the difference between stoned Chezi and sober Chezi.
0.
I would be shocked if
to be clear,
try some A/B testing, Chezi. Try some A/B testing. Spend a Shabbat not stoned with your kids.
I do both.
And see if they say about which they prefer. Stoned Abba or not stoned
they definitely prefer stoned Abba, who has a lot more patience to build their Lego thing with them, and hear them complain about that it's the wrong color block. And if you're stoned Chaz, you're like, not only are we going to look for the block, Billy, let's look for it together as an adventure the whole day. It's going to be fantastic. No, I would have to say, it's not really something that I'm embarrassed of or hiding, right? Like, it's not something I keep from my siblings or my parents. Having said that, there's virtually there's no way they would know.
I'm pretty sure they know.
I'm still now. I have like a 150 milligram chocolate inside me right now. Right? So you're not seeing someone slurring in the middle of writing back someone about his budget that he calculated his numbers wrong. It's all good in the hood. Is it true that I'm not wearing pants right now? Yes. Okay. That's a different problem. Okay. No. No.
Hey, Hezi, hypothetically, like,
Yeah.
do you think like mushroom tripping and like
That's something
Jerusalem
very different.
Yeah.
would be like a better epic experience?
Yeah, but I mean, that might be a great adventure. That's not a responsible adventure, though. As like, first of all, I can't tell my wife I need an 8-hour break right now. Okay, like that maybe is gonna happen in like phase 3 of my life. Like that's not happening right now. Like I can't not be active and not be involved, both for personally, my family, my business. So that kind of level of, let's say, of psychedelics is a whole, and which I've never done. But that's not really something that I'm really looking to get into at this point.
You're like, yeah, I've never done psychedelics, but I know the exact amount of hours it takes.
I really haven't. It's a conversation I had openly with my wife. She's just not down for that. What are you gonna do? I get it. She doesn't want to be dealing with like that one time that goes wrong, and then she's walking through the neighborhood on Shabbat, and like Chazi's in a wheelchair, and they're like, "Oh, you're that wife, that her husband." She's like, "Yep, that was me. He went nuts." So like, I don't need that. Maybe when the science gets better.
I'm practically a teetotaler.
So I told Ben that last night was the first night of Slichot for the people who don't actually believe in God. I mean Ashkenazim, sorry. And it's a joke.
Not last night, 2 nights ago.
For us, it was last night. It's Sunday night now, and Motzei Shabbos is when, it starts. And so Ben has never been to Slichot before, and I told him, well, you better take enough vodka with you. He's like, vodka? I'm like, yeah, you're going to a Chabad Slichot? Like, they have to have a Farbrengen first. And he's like, I don't know if there's a Farbrengen. And I told him, go to the Chabad rabbi, ask him if there's a Farbrengen before Slichot or not. And if he says no, just say, misnagid, and walk away.
It's always funny to me that you guys like have like a hard time with that.
With what?
Like the weed thing. I don't know like why that becomes like a thing for you guys. Like that's like it's like a strange thing. Like, oh, I don't know. It's like 2023. Like I'm just saying, like people are designed to be identified as like as cats. Like someone smoking marijuana is like a big deal. I don't know.
Trey is used to like going to a church where if they hear you were hanging out with people who had smoked marijuana ever, they would just kick you out of the church.
I mean, I
Wow.
grew up like that. Like that was like if you were a bad kid, that's what you were doing. But like times have changed. We see today that's not. Like to be clear, my nephews recently approached me about this as my nephews get older, and like I was very adamant against it. Like I'm like, you guys are too young. Your brain is still developing. It's not the right time for you. If you have time for that, then you have time to do 101 other more productive things. But there's a difference. As you know, you get older. I guess you could say the same thing about me. Like, why smoke and like why not go work in a soup kitchen? But I don't know. I honestly don't think it's a big deal if done responsibly, and I understand that it can't always be done responsibly. So I understand the concerns. Yeah, concerns. But it's also something I discuss fairly openly with my clients as well.
I know
they
you
usually
said you gave them strains.
to that client, no. But like they will discuss, like they a lot of times like I want like a whiskey bar, I want like some sort of bar they want in their house, and then they ask me what I drink. I say I don't drink anything. They ask me do like I smoke cigarettes. I say no. They're like, oh wow. I'm like, no, I have other vices. And that leads to a different conversation. Tell them about the high priest hotboxing the Holy of Holies. Things of that. I mean, that's what happened. He can't leave until the whole room was full of smoke. So, like, I mean, you could say something else was going down, but he definitely was coming out in a good mood.
I've never heard something.
I mean, that's what's happening.
Oh,
They also
man.
found.
Andrew has been completely slain.
This is like when Rastafarians say that, oh, marijuana was found in Solomon's temple. Like,
It was. By the way,
okay, tell me you're not a weed
marijuana
addict
residue.
without telling me you're not a weed addict.
No one has to take weed if they don't want to. I'm just telling you, marijuana residue was found on 2 altars right outside Jerusalem.
I believe
They're
it.
They're clearly playing with this.
That doesn't equate that it was.
What, used by the high priest? First of all, I'm not saying 100%. I'm just saying
I said Solomon. That's all I said.
It was definitely that. It predates the temple. It predates modern society. It predates the Egyptians. I'm saying even ayahuasca predates that. We're aware of that. We also are very baffled by how they took 2 of those components and put them together. So, like, people were playing around with these substances. Sometimes abusing, sometimes using them to reach higher heights, sometimes using them to bootstrap some sort of theological conversation. None of it in any way, in my eyes, or at least in my estimation, changes my relationship or someone's relationship with God. But and then the prophets just talk about how like the sons of the Bnei Nevi'im, the young prophets or the student prophets. There's alluding to them using instruments or music to get into their ecstatic state. So I'm sure those things were happening as well. We don't have to be like nervous from like accepting those concepts.
And there was also idolatry back in the day. So you know.
No doubt, for sure, there was idolatry back in the day. Okay, definitely. And by the way, just like the temple, it would be a better argument to say that even if those substances were in use, they were only happening in the temple, because only in the temple does God allow for playing with concepts of statues of gold, which we are forbidden to make, but there's the cherubs, or dealing with blood, even though we're dealing with a lot of blood inside the temple, or having sacrifices outside the temple that's only happening inside the temple. And all those very nature-based practices, which clearly were prevalent at the time and very powerful, God is saying, yes, there's a time and place for that kind of relationship with nature, but that's only happening inside the temple. So again, I don't know whether or not there were substances being used in the temple, but if so, I could understand it being only used in a specific way by specific people. Just like you have the whole breakdown of the incense that we use and its whole formulation, and they were very strict about that.
What about Aaron's sons?
Well, I would say first of all, you could say like, they had like a psychedelic freak out. However, I would say that's more of our sages discussed that differently, about that they were even at a higher level than Moses, and that's why they were basically, there was no place for them over here. They were just killed and ascended and taken away. Either way, that is a lesson to be learned, that if you're playing with fire, and not literally playing with fire, but playing with trying to reach the divine in when it's not the right time, even if you're in the right place, it could be disastrous. So that would be analogous to, you could decide, in just following my train of thought over here, it would be analogous to trying to have going to a guide and having like a very structured experience into going with your friends into the woods, into Burning Man, and having like a complete bug out attack. So there could be, you could be sure there's a difference if you're getting psychedelics from a trained professional, both spiritually and with mental health, giving you some sort of structure and guideline, to your boy saying like, bro, you gotta try this. Right? So like both of those are going to lead to very different nights, and guide you in a certain way. Like you could be having like the most marvelous experience on them, but are you then tapping into that to orient it properly? Are you saying like, wow, the stars are beautiful, and you start yelling about seeing a double rainbow? Or are you looking at the stars and then trying to realize like how you, Earth, all these things are connected, how it's so important that you are a good family man and taking care of your community, and realizing how all these different activities that you've been commanded to do are orienting you and shaping you into a better person. So those are, I would say, very big differences.
Shadow is not impressed. She thinks you're a stoner.
Don't take marijuana. Don't do it.
I've actually had suggestions of taking it for other reasons, but
No, medical reasons is like a whole side conversation. Obviously, we have something that could be very helpful, whether it's for kids that are having seizures or cancer patients that lost their appetite. That for sure. Obviously, that then they should definitely be utilizing that, and they should.
yeah, I have seizure issues. Yeah.
Right. So apparently, it helps with that, and that's great. Obviously, I mean, but you would be then the perfect test study, right? So like now there's no stigma against you, right? Because like, oh, he's taking it for medical reasons. And now that you're taking it for medical reasons, and everyone's having a normal conversation with you, so then I guess you're not a stoner anymore. Are we going to be like, no, you're a kosher stoner because you have to be stoned because you have seizures, but everyone else shouldn't be? Like, and then, I don't know, do you feel like you're slurring your words and you don't know what's going on, and like you can't be trusted, and like you're like raiding your mom's pantry for Laffy Taffies, or are you acting like an adult?
For the most part.
So yeah, so I think there's obviously there's a few years of stigma still to go.
Yeah.
Andrew, are you okay? Yeah, I saw we lost you there for a second.
Yep.
So does Judaism think that everything's eventually going to lead to universalism of a sort?
Of a sort. So I think the main difference is a lot of Pauline Christianity is very into a sort of egalitarianism, which many Christians will tell me isn't actually how to understand Paul. But as I understand Paul of Tarsus, I think he actually is very egalitarian in ways that are not Jewish. We have hierarchies and we have structures and we have the concept of priests that are different from the laity. And if you, I mean, I have zero problem explaining that I believe there is a qualitative difference between Jew and Gentile, that God has created a difference between Jew and Gentile, as he has created a difference between man and woman, and free and slave. And if your understanding is that there is some division which needs to be removed out of Judaism, where the Holy of Holies is accessible to everyone, as opposed to just one person, and that there isn't any form of hierarchy, then I would say that's not a Jewish way of viewing it.
At some point, even if we're being very open that the Noahites could come into the temple and sacrifice, there is at some point a place where they can't come in.
Yep. And I mean, I keep on making this this point.
Priestly class, Levites.
Yeah, Chezi is a Levite. He gets to stand on the steps and I don't. And that's perfectly fine because God gets to make that decision. And
Unless Jacob drops the fact that I'm high while I'm standing there and everyone starts saying, shame, shame, shame.
Well, I don't know
like
if Chezi will actually get to stand on the steps, but people, he because he refuses to actually go wash people's hands when he's supposed to, but
I really hope my son, I mean, I know my son asked me about that recently, if I really think we're going to be working in the temple.
And you said, hell no.
No, I said, of course. I'm like, we just have to keep on. Have to keep on working towards that, and it's
and wash people's hands when they go up to Duchen like a good Jew would.
Yeah, maybe in my new synagogue I'll start doing that.
You should. I would have loved the opportunity to go wash the Kohanim's hands when they.
The only way I'm gonna do it though is like I would like donate a plaque that has the reasoning why we do this.
Fine, donate a plaque as well, but go up and wash their hands.
Yeah, I can maybe do that. My dad made for his synagogue. He made like this, these statues of like these priests, these Kohens praying, to have like over where they wash their hands. But like someone in the synagogue was like, "No, this is an idol. We can't have this over here."
So, they were realistic statues of priests.
But I mean, like they're like artistic figures. I mean, like they're like very like spooky. I could send one. So.
Well, if they're spooky, then definitely they shouldn't be on there. But that's because they're spooky.
I get my point being like whatever. It's just like I mean, I mentioned this in the past that like my dad makes like these busts, but like Jewish people are going to have like a very hard time buying like busts of, let's say, rabbis.
Yeah. Trey wanted to make a statue of the Rebbe for me. I was like, no, thank you.
So Trey, I have a lot of little statues of a lot of different rabbis.
Hashem Yirachem.
I start my morning prayer by setting them all up. I bow down to them first. Then
he's joking.
I'm joking. Sorry, this is exactly not being clear. I'm joking. I believe in God.
I believe in God.
I definitely believe in God. Thank God. Very much so. Very much.
Thank God.
Very much in love with him.
Oh, it's a him. I didn't know that.
Jacob,
Chezi.
were you at all involved with this Bill Rabbi Maluk conversation?
No, it was had in December. Or something like that. I think Rabbi Mullet actually probably had somebody take a look at it before he posted it.
Interesting. I mean, I don't think he said anything controversial, and he clarified some points, which I understand why he clarified them if someone was watching it. But I was just so happy that he did that.
Yeah, I mean, like, so I did actually like have some conversations with Rabbi Mullet about the necessity of rabbis to engage with Noahides more, which I think he found convincing.
So like, I guess, does he see himself? Does he feel confident enough to position himself that way, like where he could answer those kind of questions, or no?
He's not a posek. He teaches second grade, Chezi. And I mean, a teacher of Tashbar obviously is a pious Jew and should know his Torah very well, but he's not a posek.
He is not a posek.
And he's not a Rav Moreh Hora.
It's less about Moreh Hora. It's more about Yadin Yadin.
Okay, but like,
but he's not. So yeah, I guess it's a good point. But still, I just think the fact that he engaged him, I think it was great. I think it was good that he just hears from, let's say, I could be an Orthodox Jew.
Chezi, you could go take the Rabbanut exams as well, you know.
I'm thinking more and more if I
just go take the freaking exams.
That's not going to happen, but I am.
Why? Oh, asking your grandfather?
No, I'm thinking more and more of just trying to be involved in this kind of community.
I would, if I were you, I would make sure to get smicha from my grandfather.
Smicha from my grandfather before he goes.
He live to be 120, but even if he does live to be 120, you shouldn't wait until he's 119 to ask. And frankly, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like, why wouldn't you get smicha from your grandfather?
Because I would not have the freedom to. And you could look at this as selfish, I guess. But I don't think I'd have the freedom to speak the way I speak.
Why?
Because there's more eyes on you. There's another sense of responsibility you have to take on.
Okay, first of all, I have to tell you, Chezi, you can get smicha from your grandfather and not tell anyone. Trust me, we won't tell anyone either. And Andrew's right. Chezi loves weed more than his grandfather.
Chas v'shalom. Never. No, that's definitely not the case. And yeah, I think I like being able to express myself and be more out there, because I like pushing the envelope. I like seeing how far people are going to go and take their ideas.
You could push the envelope. Your grandfather pushed the envelope as a rabbi.
He did. That is true. That is correct. He did do that.
He was a leader among Zionists. Hashem Yerachem Aleinu.
He definitely was a leader among Zionists. It was actually an interesting article. I'll try to see if I can get a printed version of it.
It was one of the first things you ever sent me.
No, he has many articles.
Okay.
Even though I disagree with him that the daughters of men and the sons of gods are talking about Neanderthals and Homo sapiens.
That's what he thinks.
Well, that's not what he thinks. That's just one of the options he posited, saying that, like, you could be talking about two different species meeting over here. I'm more of a believer that you're talking about two different lineages, one the lineage of Seth and one the lineage of Cain.
I think the simplest explanation, the push shot, is it's talking about Game of Kings behavior.
Again, talking about what?
Game of Thrones behavior.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that is
That's the push shot.
But Game of Thrones behavior, I would say, which that is in line with the lineage of Seth and the lineage of Cain, which is like if you could imagine the Lannisters looking at like a lowly, not a Stark, but some other lonely family and seeing them completely different. One has like a much more regal status.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of like the noblemen versus the little folk who didn't have last names.
Correct. So, so the lineage of Seth is supposed to be the ones that have the spiritual toolkit, and Cain is the ones with the technological toolkit. And this is also where you see there's a fail both with Enoch, and there's a fail ultimately with Noah, and their names also both alluding towards mechanech, educator. One stays up in the mountain and ultimately has to be taken by God because God is merciful for him, saying there's no place for you over here, and you're not managing to educate the population properly. Then again, there's an attempt to do that with Noah, but here too there's a fail. And there's also a play on the fact that Noah and Enoch are walking before God or by the side of God. But either way, they're very much connected to God, and they can't remove themselves from their Seth lineage. And when Abraham walks in front of God, that is what God is looking for. Someone that is not waiting for me to tell him one-to-one, but is going out there and himself trying to elevate the people before me, sort of running out. And that's why he's very interested in that. So yeah, that was a little rant. Sorry about that.
It's okay. You're stoned. We understand.
I'm thinking of doing. I don't know how this is going to happen over here. I was asking Yosef if he wanted to do it as well. Well, I'll take a step back. First off, in Grail Country, they wanted to do an Exodus series and have commentary, and I was trying to see how that could work, and then I finally managed to do that on a Saturday night, but Nate's wife was going to join as well, and she's Jewish, and I explained to Nate that like I can't participate if she's participating as well, which he disagreed with but completely understood respectfully. Either way, it's not working out with the timing over there, and I can't be there. But I was thinking of maybe doing like I had the Pirkei Avot with Ben, maybe doing a Mini 2 class. Trying to convince Yosef to join.
Yosef needs to finish his effing dissertation.
He really does. He really, really does. Needs to wrap that thing up like yesterday. Trey, what class would be interesting for you?
What class would I be interested in doing?
Yeah, what do you want to learn?
How to make meth.
How to make meth? Okay.
Yeah. So I can catch the baddies. If you know your enemy, you can like understand them. You know what I mean?
That you're just doing it for research purposes, really?
Yes. Yeah. So like, if I start seeing like these things out on the street, I'm like, oh, that's meth.
Right. You just want to know how the other side lives, really.
Yeah. Exactly.
I understand. You're such a kind heart. The sacrifices you're willing to make.
What would I maybe for real?
Only for real, for real.
Maybe a psychology class. That'd be interesting. I don't know. I've kind of completed it. You know what I mean? Like I've hit the top of my learning needs.
Wow. Way to go. You've done it all and you learned it all.
Well, I'm just saying I don't want to spend, thousands of dollars.
No, I meant like on this, in this little corner. If Jacob can now start talking about the Talmud or talking about the Mishnah or talking like what would be interesting for you to learn more about?
Oh.
Trey really loves Noahides.
Yeah, I could probably do what I don't want to learn about, and Noahides are on the top of that list.
And do you not want to learn about that because it makes you uncomfortable that like that might be something that you need to consider and you're not interested in considering that
No,
right now?
no. It's like I'll give you an example. I was talking to this dude, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm a Greek pagan," and I'm like, "Okay, that's so esoteric, so far from like reality that I'm like, it can't manifest." Like, that's what I think a lot of the time of Noahides. Like, you can't manifest it.
Why?
I just hear Jonathan be saying like, "Oh yeah, because I'm a Noahide, I can't be studying these books. Like, I can't be studying the Tanakh." And I'm like, "Bro, this is like it's too much. It's too much. It's too much."
Well, 1 second, just to be fair to Jonathan, if I remember the conversation was saying it's not clear to me what books I can and can't learn. And like Jacob and I were just discussing right now, that even the sages have a disagreement with them what they can't learn. So it's complicated.
It's too much.
It's too much.
It's too much. It's like if I made a religion that's all talky and like none of it can manifest on the ground. I think that's my point. It's like talking to a philosophy nerd for 30 hours about how cannibalism is okay, but he'll never be a cannibal. That's what it kind of feels like,
Okay, so you're saying because, well, just to clarify, you're saying also because the literature is sort of sparse, relatively speaking, and because they don't have a sense of community, you're saying like this is just like a black hole of nothingness, and like it's not practical.
Yeah. It's like Calvinism,
It's like Calvinism. How is it like Calvinism?
Like, you ask Paul, it's like, shouldn't Calvinists not preach? But they do preach. Like, it's like Tarek thing you talk about for 30 hours,
It's like, why are you bothering?
Yeah, like just go to church and shut up. You know what I mean? Like,
Just go to church.
it's like,
You're so Eastern Orthodox.
literally the opposite of that. But
Literally.
farthest thing that could be that.
Literally the farthest thing.
I love Noahides. I have to, but they just get on my nerves. Because it's like they're higher than every single other religion, but they aren't part of a religion. You know what I mean?
I have no idea what you mean.
Like, they're like, "Oh, you believe in that silly Jesus? Oh, you believe in that silly Muhammad?" You know what I mean?
Nope. I have zero clue what you mean.
Like, a Gentile saying Paul of Tarsus, and he's not an atheist, makes me feel weird.
A Gentile saying Paul of Tarsus, but he's not an atheist.
He means the Jews have like a very clear relationship to the Noahides, right? They're all chilling. right? Whereas with these Christians and these Muslims, they're all like kind of weird, you know, what's our relationship? How do I hash it out? So like these Noahides, they're better than like all the other religions, but they're still like, you know, like a second-class Jew.
Yeah, it's kind of like sucks. Like it just like I know we're gonna say it, but it feels like it's like God was like, okay, I made this table, I made this great feast. Oh snap! And then like you're cutting a piece of cake to give to a Jew, and then a little crumb just falls on the ground, and then the Snow White's like, please let me have this crumb.
And we say, yes, you may have the crumb.
You may have the crumb. Nothing else though. Just this crumb. That's all you get. Just this crumb. Maybe in another 1,000 years when the Messiah comes, you'll get a few more crumbs. But for now, I don't know about that.
I have great admiration for the people who are satisfied with the crumbs.
Hey, that's great too. That's great.
Great.
Great. Andrew, what do you say when you're uncomfortable?
What not?
Yeah.
Whatnot. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
whatnot.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
How did yesterday go? Yep. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
sir.
Yep. Oh, I have work tomorrow. Oh gosh.
You have work tomorrow? What are you going to do at work tomorrow?
I don't know. Read this book or something like that, you know?
You're supposed to say, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
I've said that too many times.
There is a helicopter
Why?
over my apartment, and it's like yelling at people.
What'd you say?
There's a helicopter over my apartment, and it's like yelling to people. Like they're using their loudspeaker, and it's like midnight.
Sounds about right. Good. And Hetty's gone. I'm still kind of down to go to Jerusalem. I don't know if it's happening. But yeah.
I'm sure it's happening. There's going to be probably tens of people there. It'll be marvelous.
I got a religious question. Is it bad that you kind of want to see demons? Because if you see demons, then you know it's real, right? You know what I mean? Like if you see the really bad stuff.
This is exactly why, like, I hang around with Mormons.
I don't know, man. I don't see that demonic. You know what I mean? Like I want some like serious emo stuff. You know what I mean? I'm gonna start watching Harry Potter. I'm gonna get so many demos from that.
If you say so.
I forgot to tell you, witnesses couldn't watch Harry Potter, so you know.
Hey,
So giant.
At the Lord of Spirits Lords of Spirit conference, we're gonna have a D&D tournament.
Good.
When is Lords of Spirits?
You want to tell them?
It's a podcast by Father Stephen DeYoung.
No, I know that. When is the thing happening?
Oh, it's around Halloween.
Are you going, Andrew?
No.
All the tickets are out, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't feel sad then.
They're way sold out. They sold out all the tickets, and then they sold out of all the day passes too.
So
Jerusalem
Giants-
is happening, supposedly. I don't know. Noahide 7? Who's Noahide 7? Jerusalem is supposedly happening, but I've decided for my sanity, I am going to stop worrying about it and not go personally.
He'll go. He'll go. I'll convince him.
I was scared of demons, but I thought if I saw one, then I knew God was real and could protect me.
Amen. That's why you have to do all the bad stuff. All the bad stuff to maybe see them.
What's the bad stuff?
The thing that grows on the ground.
Oh, the weed.
Man. Yeah.
We could finish listening to Rabbi Reisman.
No, God, no. Please, God, no.
Oh, I gotta ask, like, why is there giants after the flood? What happened? What happened there? Did God just like not kill all of them, or
Apparently.
do they have to follow the laws of, Noah, or
Apparently.
they do?
Everybody does.
But they're not from Noah though.
Are they not?
They're giants, man.
The fact is, ultimately, the reason why people have to keep the laws of Noah is not necessarily because they're descendant of Noah, but because at Sinai, Moses was taught that everybody who is not Jewish is required to keep the laws of Noah.
Okay, so let's say theoretically, you meet a giant that has lived before Sinai and just survived from all this time forward, like Grendel, right? What if you meet Grendel?
On Sinai, because of Sinai, after Sinai, he is required to keep the laws of Noah. I guess. I don't know. It's all Nathaniel's fault. Have you met Nathaniel J. Franco?
I don't think so.
He lives in California. He has 2 kids. When I visited him, his wife was pregnant and his son was asleep.
Have you read Beowulf?
I have not read Beowulf.
Really good book.
Why is there a helicopter over my apartment? Is there any way of finding out why there's a helicopter over my apartment?
I don't know, man. Google.
Why is there a helicopter circling? Tracking Los Angeles Police Department helicopters. There's the helicopter over my apartment. There it is. It's right there. N226LA. That's the name of this helicopter that's over my apartment right now. Helicopter Airbus H125 series 8636 register used by Elliott Airbus Helicopters Inc. Built 2019. It was built in 2019 and it's over my apartment as we speak.
Get NFL Sunday Ticket and watch your favorite NFL teams' out-of-market Sunday games live. Also,
This is the helicopter that's over my apartment as we
Airbus
speak.
H125 is a single-engine, light utility helicopter. It holds the world record for the highest altitude landing and takeoff, performed on Mount Everest at 8,848 meters, a title still held today. The H125 is the undisputed leader in its class for the past 30 years. It has been delivered in nearly 120 countries, for close to 2,000 operators. Together, these aircraft have accumulated more than 34 million flight hours. With built-in maneuverability, excellent visibility, and low vibration levels in the cabin, this helicopter has earned its reputation as a true multi-mission workhorse, becoming a common sight at heliports, hospital landing pads, police department operations centers, and airports around the world. The H125 is equipped with an engine produced by Safran Helicopter Engines, Ariel 2D turboshaft engine, with a dual-channel full-authority digital engine control unit, plus a third independent and automatic backup channel, and an automatic startup. The engine is fitted with an engine data recorder. It offers pilots enhanced safety and reduced workload, thanks to the glass touchscreen cockpit instrument panel, with Garmin G500 HTXI and vehicle and engine multifunction display, developed for Airbus. It allows pilots to check the main vehicle and engine parameters with just a glance. The H125 is also now equipped, in baseline, with a crash-resistant fuel system. It has a maximum range of 630 kilometers, while its maximum endurance time goes up to 4 hours and 30 minutes. It can reach a maximum speed of 260 kilometers per hour, and a maximum altitude of 7,000 meters. The H125 can accommodate 2 pilots, and up to 6 passengers, depending on selected configuration. The unit price is $2.9 million.
$3 million.
Subscribe to our channel.
$3 million.
You could steal it if you want.
Yep, 2.9 US dollars. I guess I'd feel special if that was flying over my house. I don't feel special. We get what do they call them? Ghetto birds in Los Angeles all the time. But usually at this hour, like, I live in a posh enough area that, like, the people will call the police chief and be like, "This is too loud, I'm trying to sleep." And the police chief would be like, "Get that guy." Yeah. The Pope should get one. Call it the Popecopter. The Australian contingent is actually very active here, apparently. I'm pretty sure Connie's from Australia. I think Don is from Australia. And I think Ryan is from Australia. We have a bunch of Australians here.
Crazy. Man. I gotta do homework.
Go do homework.
Mm-hmm.
It's like midnight. Why are you doing homework?
You know, you look outside, it's dark, you say, hey, I should have done stuff. And so you get all your best work done when it's midnight.
Dawn is in Oregon. Sandy, you should be asleep.
I was. I was listening to that. Oh, I was listening to the. Was he a rabbi that you put in the thing?
Rabbi Reisman?
Yeah. And then I fell asleep and I woke up with Ian McGilchrist talking in this very slow English voice about I don't know what. So, and then you were arguing with Hezi about getting a test from his grandfather again because I looked to see what's going on in the world.
He should get his test from
I think so.
that. Yeah, he should.
There's a lot. The world is a crazy, crazy place, and it's getting crazier every day. And there's things that matter. And I think you're right. Get his test from his grandfather.
We give out Vegemite sandwiches to foreigners who come here.
That's nice. I've never had a Vegemite sandwich, although my friend used to eat them regularly.
Vegemite is like a byproduct of making beer, I believe.
Yeah, but they love their malt and everything. Oh my gosh, all my English friends when I was pregnant with my oldest told me I had to have malt beer because malt beer was going to be so good for me.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything when my teacher was like, oh, yeah, nursing women shouldn't have any alcohol. I was like, are you kidding? Like, haven't you heard the old wives' tale that, like, it creates more milk and, like, I know plenty of women who, like, only drank when they were nursing.
It's a weird thing because the whole, like, my friend who adopted the boy, my friend through the deaf school, her youngest son was born with fetal alcohol syndrome, really bad because that first trimester you absolutely shouldn't drink. The earlier in the pregnancy you drink, the more it impacts the brain, the formation of whatever. But once you get to that spot, yeah, I don't know, like then that's when they start saying you should have malt beer and all this good stuff. And yeah, malt beer is disgusting. I hate beer, but anyway.
I like beer. I don't like IPAs so much. I love hard cider.
Oh, cider beers. I don't hate beers as much as I used to. When I was young, if my friends had beer, I'd say, nope, it's like lunch bag letdown. I absolutely loved the smell of beer. And then you taste it and it was so bitter. So, yeah. But cider beers are good. But then again, I just drink tea. Too much tea.
My mom used to put tea in my bottle.
Yeah.
They did that in Iran.
Yeah, I put the kettle on in case I'm going to have some tea before I go back to sleep because that's what we did in my house, People's always go, oh, I can't sleep. I've got coffee or tea or caffeine. I can't have it after 6 p.m. And I'm like, that's what we were put to bed with. What are you talking about? It's like every night,
I used to be put to bed with tea in my bottle.
Yep. See? That explains a lot. Wow, that's close.
All the brain damage, yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear the helicopter?
I did, yeah. That's really close.
Yeah, it's I am suddenly reminded of Jacob saying he was given tea in a bottle as a little one. There you go.
Yep.
And now the helicopter made somebody's alarm go off.
Interesting. Do they have an actual emergency or?
Usually the helicopter circling is because there's like some sort of fugitive.
They're looking for someone. Yeah. We only had that once ever where I lived. I forget where I was, but my mother was babysitting. And they went door to door in our very quiet little small town neighborhood, telling everybody, that they needed to leave because they were looking for somebody with a gun. And my mother wouldn't answer the door because she was babysitting. So I come home later and I find out she's sitting there and they're trying to get people out of the area where shots could be fired. And I'm like, so you kept my kids just sitting there because you didn't feel like answering the door when the police were banging on it. Like, I don't know. No, I've never lived anywhere that really had a lot of, which is strange having grown up in Toronto. But we were in North End. There was nothing happened there. Still farm fields in my day.
Well, when I was in college, I lived near USC, and near USC, there's a really bad neighborhood and stuff. But, this place, I'm very close to Beverly Hills. Frankly, I would be surprised if people from Beverly Hills, there weren't some people living in Beverly Hills who could hear this. And, they're the type of people who call the mayor, and the mayor does, I'm kind of wondering why this is still going since it's so loud. But maybe it's not loud enough to get all the way to Beverly Hills. But, Century City is right here, and those people are uber rich.
Yeah. That's the new thing. There's not really a lot of middle ground anymore. Although there is, but they're working on it.
Well, in Los Angeles, yeah. We have lots and lots of billionaires.
Yeah. Some of those people that said they were getting rich through COVID, sitting home, learning how to be online, must be actually doing it. So you never know. What are your billionaires rich from? Are they actual billionaires who've worked their way up?
Well, people, when they become billionaires, they move to Los Angeles. So, yeah. So, how have you been, Sandy?
Well, I keep telling people I'm great, but I've been pretty tired, so I'm still waking up in the night and having some eye issues with my I'm not sure what's going on with my left eye, but yeah.
How's the Catholic Church?
They're still there, they're still fine. I haven't talked to the priest yet. He was at some conference, so. But I accidentally called the office instead of the health place that's looking after my ex because the phone wasn't bright enough when I clicked on what I thought was the right St. Joseph's, but all the places, there's 6 St. Joseph's I could have called. And I accidentally called the church, so we had a nice chat. So, yeah. They're good people, I guess. They're good people, I don't know what to say to the priest, though, because...
Hi usually works.
Yeah, I did that already. I said hi to him. Yeah, he was busy talking to some friends, and yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I'll let you know how it goes. I'll talk to him. I'll just kind of tell him I'm visiting and curious. And... yeah. How come there's so much Noahide talk right now? Are people just more interested, or is it the hot button word of the day?
I was very surprised that Rabbi Reisman was talking about it. I was surprised about that. At the same time, so I don't think people realize that 100,000 Noahides translates to a lot more involvement with Orthodox Jews, with Gentiles, than has existed in a very, very long time. He was talking about a wedding where there were 3 seating sections. One
I
of
heard
them was for
that. Yeah.
And it's like, well, I mean, this is a wedding that he went to. And like, that's a very new experience.
Okay, so I got a weird question.
I have a weird answer.
I know, that's why I'm going to ask you. You'll answer. So there's like there's all the angry argument shift on the church denominational side about who's in, who's out, and why, and all those things. So there's actual shifts going on, but at the same time, I look at, I pop in here and I've never heard the word Noahide before here.
Very few people have. I mean, look, it is very few Jews have.
But it's there in the Bible that you follow the laws. And so that's the thing is, so people say if you're here, well, if you're not necessarily directly I'm suddenly looking at my life going, I'm always watching kind of where people are at around me. And I'm like, well, this doesn't surprise me because basically if there wasn't a word for it, would it change all that much? Not really.
Well, I mean, the word God-fearers is used in the Christian Bible, and very few Christians actually recognize what it means when they read it in their own Bible.
I know. I feel like there's knowing people across a number of denominations, not the Orthodox and the just general Protestant, just knowing people across a number of Protestant denominations, it's kind of weird to me how little people know, even the New Testament way better than most people I know. And
which is shocking. I mean, I always thought that I would never be able to know the Christian Bible as well as a Christian, which is why when a Christian would tell me Jesus taught X, Y, or Z, I would be like, okay, that's what he must have thought. And I don't believe that anymore. I don't think Christians know enough about Judaism to read their own Bible generally.
And that's, I think, well, from my take on it, I think that's the problem in a nutshell. There's so far down the line, I'm hearing more intelligent, well, aside from the not intelligent stuff, I'm hearing more intelligent discussion from a few people who are actually digging in, that are arguing on my denominational side, that you think, well, at least the people who went to school for it know some of it, but not even always. There's people there I listen to and I'm thinking, yeah, they know what they're talking about from the point of view they've studied it. Why don't they know the Old Testament stuff? Why? I'll hear comments on things and I'm like, where do you get that? And I'm not that well read. My ex spent way more time reading stuff than I did. He would argue with them about stuff.
Well, okay, at least part of what we think we know comes from how other people discuss things with us. So our understanding of things is a lot less individual than we recognize.
Yeah. Most of my learning feels kind of scattered at the moment. I know about the little bits I know, but I don't know it in the depth that is discussed here. That's interesting. People that's one of the things that I see is if you have conversation with Andrew or Trey, they might not know all the stuff, but they're digging in so that they can hold their ground arguing with you. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, hey, if you're digging in for whatever reason, you're still digging in. But yeah. Yeah, I'm not doing great with my Psalms reading right now.
Me neither.
I don't know why. It's that whole. Yeah, I've been telling people I'm doing the Maps of Meaning book right now. Finally, I got the audiobook from the library, and I found a PDF that I can look at while listening to it. So
I didn't know there was an audiobook.
apparently, I couldn't get the hardcover, like paper book, but they had the audiobook going around. So I'll probably have to read it in bits because there's a long waiting list for it apparently. So, and
they wouldn't want to buy any copies because that would put money in Jordan Peterson's.
Well, I don't know if people request enough, they will.
Librarians really enjoy their power trips. That's what I've noticed. Librarians really enjoy their power trips.
Yeah. I thought about being a librarian, but my mother said they didn't make any money. And then I realized my friend went to U of T and that's what she was studying. And I'm like, I'm working retail and office jobs my whole life. Why did you make me go to university to work retail and office jobs? Yeah. Half a year at teacher's college and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I look at what I could be earning and I'm like, oh my gosh. That's okay. I stuck in the comments that Hezi should seriously talk to God. Does he want him to take this test? Because I can't see why he wouldn't, but it's not up to us to tell him.
I mean, yeah, but
he's got to take it because he just feels that he has to. So, but that's an aside. So your question about how am I doing? I told my son he needs to learn to talk to his brother. Well, actually, I told both of them that. I live in the least I was 30 years in the least communicative family that you could imagine.
Mm-hmm.
You're tired. How's school?
I did some homework. I hate school.
I need school.
Yeah, but like, it feels like so much of it. So yesterday, one of my friends, who I've been friends with for many years, he had a daughter, so they named the daughter at the first Torah service after the baby's born. So I think the baby was born Thursday or Friday. Thursday, probably. And so yesterday we went to synagogue and they named her Menucha Rachel. And yeah, I was at the synagogue and I started realizing, like, so his 17-year-old son was there, and Michael is younger than I am, and I met him when I was in law school and he was in undergrad, and now he's a successful cardiologist with many children. And like, I was at the synagogue and it was like, wow, I've wasted most of my life. And yeah.
That's a place I understand. It's not probably true,
You have 2 kids. I have 0 kids. I have a cat and a dog.
I know. You would have amazing kids. You would. If you still can, I mean, Jack was early 40s when he had his sons. They drove him nuts. They don't talk to me. but they're amazing kids.
I'm not opposed to it, but like I'm not deliberately trying to date young women in order to find somebody to be my baby mama.
Yeah. There is more to life than just that's an interesting topic to me because I still look. This loops back to the whole Noah Hyde thing. Partway through something that was on today, I was looking up somebody somewhere in one of the videos that was posted said something that had me looking up that thing again. Well, and maybe I don't know that like as a woman, as a non-Jew, and as somebody that is, as far as I'm concerned, basically now a widow who is married to a Jew. That's a weird place. Hello, Shadow. Hello. She still looks
She looks what?
so young. She's not a year yet.
I don't think she's a year yet.
No, she looks to be maybe 8 or 9 months. She's just
she's around there.
Cats are amazing things.
They are. I didn't think I would like cats.
Yeah. Okay, you have some picture that flashes up behind your picture that has green in it, almost like a map or image, but not.
I don't know what you're talking about. An image behind my? What do you mean?
No, like when the screen changes and something's gonna. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Like either your picture disappears and another one half for like a nanosecond is there, but it's not. It's just something with green lines. I don't know. See if it shows up later when it's around.
Oh, Nathaniel says, looks like the camera was glitching out. That's possible. I probably. Oh, so. Huh. Yeah, I probably need to restart my computer.
Yeah. But now your life's not wasted. I'm sure it isn't.
We'll see. We will all find out on the day of judgment.
Yes, I have many conversations with God on that topic. Have done my whole life. Questions. Could you imagine if we all get to ask our questions? What that
We will all get to ask
like
our
all
questions.
at once. Worse than your helicopters. Yeah. All right. So, how come? Weird question. Or now you can. I'll ask you. Has he said something about some course Nate wanted him to do, or he was talking about doing over on Nate's channel?
Yeah.
But yeah. But
so Nate's wife is Jewish, and if the timing is such that it would be the Sabbath where she is, he couldn't do a live stream with her.
Right. Because it would be, okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
I feel horrible that really horrible that there's so many of us that are not Jewish that
What? That what?
Well, that could sit in on something like that just because of the timing of it. And
that's fine.
Probably really benefit from it. That they probably can't find a time that they could do it. I don't know.
They'll figure it out. Okay, I think I'm gonna end the stream.
Thank you. Nice seeing you, and yes, I'm still alive and kicking.
I'm glad you're alive and kicking. Just don't kick too many people.
There's a few on my list. Hey, shalom. And suddenly my brain wants to speak French, which I don't speak that well. Oh, I am learning I'm learning little bits of Hebrew though. Oh, now that Yosef taught me how to put the proper keyboard on my phone, I can play Duolingo with actually being able to answer questions. Because before I didn't know how to make that work. I couldn't find the keyboard, so I'm having fun. All kinds of. Does the dog eat? I know whether it's the dog or a dog or all kinds of things that are completely irrelevant to any conversations here in Hebrew. Still fun. Anyway,
Okay,
have
I'm
a
going
good
to end
one.
the
Enjoy
stream.
your courses. Don't let all the woke get you.